Okay, good afternoon, and welcome everyone. My name is Gustavo Gordillo, a risk coordinator at Business Recovery Centers, Impact Beaverton. Today we are the honored to host our presenter, Luisa Nims and Robert Turbey, with a great topic, branded and data-driven marketing strategies. Welcome, Luisa and Robert. The presentation will be recorded and later available via Impact Beaverton YouTube channel as a resource for small businesses. We will also make the Spanish audio available through our talented interpreter Jessica Dower joining us today. Gracias, Jessica. After the presentation, we will open for the question answer on recorded, so everyone feel comfortable to make any questions. And the presentation rules, please put your question in the chat box, and we will do our best to address every one of them. Thank you. Okay, we can start.
Okay, good morning, everyone. Thank you for attending this session. This is the third of a three-part series around branding. And we're finishing up with basically, what do you do when you have a brand strategy? What happens next? Well, that's when you start looking at digital marketing companies and looking at website design and a lot of other stuff. So it's basically implementing what we've learned so far about brand positioning and developing your brand strategy. So we have Robert Turvey here from Connecting Your Customers. He is a local digital marketing expert. He is great at figuring out what to do with the strategy and also how to fine tune it, because it becomes kind of a reflective process between, okay, we've got this great strategy. Well, is it as good as we think it is? And where are the opportunities and where should we maybe be tweaking it with data? And data really helps you fine tune where you should be, where the opportunities are, and where the possibilities are. So it becomes kind of a, like I said, a reflective relationship between the marketing and the brand strategy. And so today we will be hearing from Robert around a case study we put together for the Acme Janitorial Services. It's a fictional company, and you'll see how we go from a strategy to implementing data to help us drive where our next steps should be. So let's get started. And I believe I shared my screen. I'll share my screen with you. I'm not sure why that's not fully loading. Let's try this again. Okay. Well, you know, I'm Luisa Nims from Acid Branding and Robert Turvey from Connect Your Customers. So we know that people do not buy what you do, they buy why you do it. Many companies make the mistake of thinking it is about the product or service. And people who have been at the other two presentations will know that this is a consistent slide, because it's a reminder to companies that it really is about why you're there and what you're providing people. And that's where the emotional connection comes in. So the goal for this particular presentation is to see how data and a brand strategy are reflective conversations informing marketing efforts. We did a case study with Acme Cleaning Services. It's a fictional company, and it was just an area that we thought it would be good for people to see as a case study. So we've got branding, and we're going to talk about the ideal client and then go on to how data informs brands. So you can realize that you can go from being profitable, not profitable quickly, or you can go from profitable to being really profitable quickly. And then putting together a marketing strategy, looking at new opportunities for growth. So the background of Acme Cleaning Services. They're residential. They anticipate clients' needs, going above and beyond, which creates small delights for their clients. They have limited opportunities, they're houses only, and they're focused on repeat clients, building long-term relationships with residential homeowners. So they're a small team of cleaners with a limited client list, and they're lacking a strategy to build a growth-focused business. So it's time to shift. Many small businesses focus their growth on what other companies in their market are doing. Strategic planning is pushed to the side as a drive for building a client base prevails. Long-term goals are often not considered. Oftentimes, the startup is staffed by family. Once the service moves beyond this stage, considerations to growth and planning come into play. So questions to prepare to scale. Focus on long-term planning from the beginning and work backward determines where you start. And this is really important. And a lot of time, small companies and small businesses start from this, they have the skill that they do and they want to find out a way that they can make it into a profitable business. And actually what you want to do is not only look at the skills that you have, but look at where you ultimately want to go. And then figure out where you have to start based upon where you want to go. And that's really important. So Acme Cleaning Services likes to exceed expectations. Finding ways they can do this for their business informs their brand strategy. So the question is, who are you really selling to? Who's your ideal client? And it might not be who you think it is. Residential cleaning services are a high need in property management, construction, and real estate markets. Acme Cleaning Services' ideal client is not the residential homeowner that they think it is. It's a precarious relationship. They move away, they change services with no reasoning, or something small goes wrong and they just drop you and move on. They're hard to scale. They're small individual clients with limitations to services that can be offered. They're low profit. Homeowners do not like to pay premium for domestic services, and there's a perceptual issue because of that. The average house cleaner is seen as low-skilled labor. But we also know that anybody who really knows how to clean their house is that it is hard labor. So looking at strategic partnerships are going to be really important for Acme Janitorial Services. And Robert, jump in when you're ready.
Yeah, so I wanted to also back up. One thing that I felt compelled to be part of this is I love startups. It's not generally my ideal client, but what I knew for me was that a lot of the information that startups really need, they're not always getting. So I like a data focused approach because most people in my position can't back up their inclinations or their instincts with actual information. I also happen to have owned a janitorial company. I've owned quite a few different businesses. So I love taking the failures that I've had and hopefully giving people that a little bit better sense of like, if I could do it over again, how would I guide people? So in this case, specifically, we built the business on the smaller residential cleanings. I did a lot of that work. And what we found is that particularly COVID changed things. I was no longer in that business at the time, but what it did for a lot of people was a lot of people didn't have disposable income or they were scared to spend money. They didn't want people in their homes. That sort of thing took place. So the way that we had expanded our business and why we chose this Acme business was we found that relationships with property management companies where we were doing sometimes outdoor carpet cleaning, which sounds strange, but it's a high need, dusting, cleaning lint traps, things like that. It ended up building us a lot more sustainable business and relationships with realtors, particularly in a market where lots of homes are being bought and sold, was a really, really strong relationship for us because they needed somebody last minute to go in and clean, and they tended to be pretty profitable if we managed our time well. And then the third consumer was commercial builders. And part of the commercial builders we liked was there are some national chains that solely do the construction, but they cannot turn over the property without it being fully cleaned the last time. And at some point, some of those companies would pay during the construction multiple times between vendors for cleaning. And in one case, I think we ended up getting paid. We didn't want to go back to do a job and they ended up paying us $350 to come in and sweep and mop and vacuum one final time. So there were some pretty great add-on services that throughout the process, these builders don't want to pay their labor people to do work they're unskilled at doing or don't have the equipment to do. And they'll pay janitorial service to come in and do that often. So that was sort of the three different relationships that we had developed, and it helped the business grow pretty substantially rather quickly. And we'll kind of go into what the service offerings were within each of those relationships and kind of how to acquire those relationships. But for me, that was a lot more sustainable than my brother-in-law and me going in and cleaning, or my friend and her partner. So that's kind of the basis for this case study and why I feel like it's really valuable. So you can go ahead and proceed.
Okay. So as Robert mentioned, strategic partnerships are going to be really important to build, for Acme to build their janitorial services. So high ticket sales are in the one-off jobs for a company. And as Robert just mentioned, it is the add-ons, and it is the move-in, move-outs. It's the cleaning up after construction and renovation, and other opportunities like that. So the ideal clients are realtors, property management, and construction company admins, which is very different than what a lot of residential cleaning services are focused upon. So these three industries are constantly looking for janitorial cleaning service companies that exceed expectations. And that exceeding expectations means that you add on a lot of other jobs that aren't normally considered. And that is just like if you go to a restaurant and pay for tableside service, you pay a lot more for that, even though it doesn't cost the restaurant anything. That's an add-on service that the restaurant makes a lot of money at. Another example is alcohol. They can charge 4 times what the alcohol actually costs, and even higher depending upon the type of restaurant. And so it's like an add-on service where you where you actually make the most money. So we're asking Acme janitorial services to look at those add-on services. So strategic partnerships build your business, and this is for any company. It goes for me, like Robert would be a strategic partner for me. A graphic designer would be a strategic partner for me as a brand strategist. So you need to ask yourselves, who are your strategic partners? Because they can actually bring you business and you can bring them business. And so it becomes really quickly a very healthy working relationship. So in this case, Acme needs to find the person in the company who is personable, a native English speaker, and charismatic. Because the ideal client is a site, project, or property manager. They're usually in the age range of 18 to 32. They love muffins, cookies, and attention. It is a high turnover job. So it means that you have to get used to building relationships with the company and contact people. Because while the company might stay the same, the contact people change. But if you get your name out in the company, then the next person that comes in to take that job will know that you are one of those go-to people in their Rolodex.
The reason that I like to think about the 3 types of clients, especially as our business grew, was that I know blocking out a schedule, but it can also be a huge drop in revenue last minute. So the beauty of the 3 different types of client is commercial might be a 6-month or a year contract. So it's the consistency and scheduling out and understanding budgeting. It really helps for budgeting purposes. It gives you the understanding of like what your labor, basically making sure that the people that you've employed can stay employed. So that piece is very stable. The commercial is larger projects that have a set delivery date, so they can be planned out and booked out in advance. So maybe a month out, 2 months out, and it makes it a lot easier to plan around, and they can be a higher ticket. And then it's generally repeat business. And the third one is the realtors, because while they're last minute, they can be great to fill in gaps in a schedule where you had, you have a block of time where a employee or yourself is in an area of the city and you can fill in work with different realtors in different markets. So we would build relationships with realtors in Camas, Washougal, and then in Hillsborough, and then in Wilsonville. And so that allowed us to keep our schedule fairly well blocked out. And it provided a lot more consistency and stability for our own personal budgets.
Okay. So what are these ideal clients looking for? They're looking for one-stop solutions for multiple tasks. And these are all things that you can do without having to have a special license. So the cleaning, residential move in and move out or office, leaf blowing to keep the property presentable, light repairs, fixing loose knobs, leaky faucets, small holes, and changing light bulbs, cleaning cobwebs out of lighting fixtures, all that kind of stuff. And you can also do carpet and window cleaning and gutter cleaning if you're asked. And this is all about being reliable and making it easier for your client to do their job.
So we found that generally these property managers have a lot of last minute complaints or things they need done. And we were able to show up and complete some of this work. And it might be an extra $800 or $900 a month, or just for cleaning light bulbs and things like that. So you could block out some seasonal projects, and they appreciate when someone can be sort of their dependable person on the ground, helping them to understand their property better when they're not able to visit them every week.
And that is I think a struggle that a lot of businesses have is how can you be a good partner to your clients? And how can you make their life easier? And it's something that a lot of people struggle with because they don't really think about it. So you have to really kind of spend some time and figure out just by what they're talking about, their frustrations, their concerns, on how you can help solve those problems for them. Okay, underserved markets are areas of opportunity. Short-term rentals, new home sales, multifamily, shared space, community clubhouses are great examples. Robert, do you want to speak on this? Because you had a lot of good ideas around these.
Sure. So some of the things that were really stabilizing for us were like large build outs, such as the newer ones in Washington County and Hillsborough, along 12th and Sherwood Road for the commercial buildings, and then TV Highway. I don't know why that escaped me. I used to live over there. TV Highway, where all the new homes are being built, and those generally come with an HOA, and they have contractual obligations. And so what we really loved is we would keep clubhouses clean. It was really stable, especially in the summers when they're being used frequently. We would schedule and have them book out for events. We'd come in and clean up after parties and events. That worked really, really well. And then one of the add-ons that we found a lot of people don't want to do, but was a really solid revenue for us, was the property management companies will buy the dog or pet waste bags. And we would actually just make sure that they always had bags, and we remove the pet waste bins weekly, generally, sometimes twice a week. And they paid very well. And a lot of the reason was because they could not find somebody to remove that waste and take it to one of the 2 or 3 dumps that actually receives pet waste. And so those were things where when you stack multiple properties, we would have a day where it would be $700, $800, $900 worth of profit at the end of the day, just for making a round of dog stations. So drive around with a truck with a bed liner in it, and we would do a lot of the dog poop stations. And that was a really, really solid business for us. It's often underlooked, but often is contractually obligated with HOAs in the Pearl District, South Waterfront, and then Beaverton, and we had properties in Sherwood and Wilsonville that we did that. So we really loved the community spaces and the shared spaces. They also could be done any time of day or night, as long as they were done. So they could be wedged into a schedule where it wasn't required that it be cleaned at a specific time of day, which made it, again, the flexibility in the schedule and making sure that if we had people out in the field, that their hours are being used well and they weren't just driving around, spending half their day in the car. We were paying for their time.
So Acme Janitorial Services should explore expanding into office cleaning as well, because it pays more and there's low competition. Many cleaners are focused on the residential market because nights and weekends limit competition. People don't generally want to work during that time, and it requires background checks, but it's stable. They're usually 6 to 12-month contracts, and there's more add-on services there as well. So realtors and property managers. Realtors in the 500,000 house sale range and above have steady move-in and move-out jobs. The average pay is 300 to 500 for a one-time day cleaning versus 120 for weekly cleaning. And with construction, it's the same thing. New construction renovation projects, most of it's based on builder and relationships, but it's $200 plus for an hour or two of work. And this was another area that Robert looked into. Do you want to say anything on this?
Sure. This one was really great for us because those relationships with contractors, again, they need someone who will come in last minute. They have to deliver it ready. And often they are not equipped or willing to clean after the fact. And so those relationships were very consistent, and especially in a market where there is a lot of contractors aren't taking on new work. They need vendors that come in and do with stuff. And they're willing to pay pretty well right now because they need that work done.
Okay. So that means that logistical planning will lower time on the road, which is a budget killer. So this means that you really need to be clear about what geographic areas you're working in and when you're working there. So strategize, focus on geographical location to start. In Robert's research, Beaverton is optimal for construction, commercial, and residential. Hillsborough, new home construction, buy or commercial, and Wilsonville, move in and move out or office cleaning. And I think we talked about Portland too. Robert, do you want to add to this?
Yeah, we found that we often would block out parts of the city for different days of the week. Because going from Wilsonville to, say, Selwood, then to Vancouver, it just ended up eating up a lot of time. So either having people in different regions that serve a different area, or being focused on, like in particular, Tualatin only has commercial, I believe commercial and industrial land able to be developed at this point. So the bulk of the land that's there will have to be built out for commercial and industrial, which is great if you build the relationships with the builders, and then the companies that are coming in, they often need someone to be in there regularly. So that kind of understanding what each of those markets look like and what type of consumer are there. The Villa Bois in Wilsonville was a great set of properties for us because, again, large collective bargaining, people are paying fairly substantial HOAs, and they have the budget to pay to do trash services and things like that. We were not doing their large waste, but we were doing all of their park services and pet stations, and it was incredibly profitable. And we would basically focus on Sherwood and Wilsonville as a sort of an operations space, picking up a little bit of Tualatin. We would do Washington County, predominantly Beaverton and Hillsborough, with some Aloha. And then we would do Portland one day so that we weren't driving to and from Portland multiple times with traffic and parking. And we do Portland and Vancouver. And just kind of segmenting our weeks out that way worked really, really well to have a similar work for the same type of person and their equipment.
So next steps. Network with realtors, property managers, and construction companies. Find out what their top 5 needs are. Find what you can give them with your current staff size, skill level, and licenses. Do not be everything to everyone, and know what you do best. So build a website. Digital marketers grow your business. A good digital marketing company knows how to use data and brand strategy. Websites do the heavy lifting for a service-based local business. And website SEO, keyword search, and plus the brand positioning is where you get your point of engagement. Implement data upfront to build out your site. Find clients and create organic content. And this is where a good digital marketer will help you. They will be able to take the brand strategy that's been created and find ways to implement it. Do you want to say anything, Robert?
Sure. So generally when I have a sense of who people's ideal client are, then we have tools that we can actually look at a market space and decide, okay, you're based in Beaverton, you're trying to decide where to expand your services. Do I look at Gresham, Oregon City, Wilsonville? Do I go into Vancouver and get licensed and insured up in Washington? What's the space that's going to make the most sense? And so we actually look at generally Google first because it's where the bulk of the search volume is. We actually pull historical data on what the consumer is searching for with relevant search terms. And you're building out a strategy on the website that is built to not only attract those clients organically, but to retain them when they get to your website. So you're not positioning yourself for a client that may not exist or may exist in a different market. You're building out a strategy that attracts the type of client and how their buying habits have basically changed over time. Like we can look in the data and see that when COVID hit, there was a massive drop in certain searches. And then as the lockdown released, you could when we had a spike last winter. So we can look back, oftentimes back as far as 2003, with depending on the niche, we can see how markets have evolved and changed based on user search history and volume over time, which is really cool. We can also see, are there gaps in what service offerings or niches that people have missed, like the pet waste removal. A lot of companies miss that one. They're so focused on cleaning, but the pet waste removal was a great money maker for us. And frankly, because most companies won't deal with pet waste or biohazard in this case, it's a very stable business. We didn't lose those contracts ever. We would keep them for years and years and years. So it was just very consistent revenue in a way that property management companies get changed all the time. And HOAs will fire one, they'll bring in the next one. Maybe we even have a vendor relationship. And there were companies where we would be with 3 or 4 different vendors, and we were always the chosen janitorial. And that worked really, really well for us. So I think that's understanding not only how to position yourself for Google to be served up, but understanding that when they get to your website, are you providing the easy choice for them to reach out and actually connect?
A good digital marketing consulting firm will refer to you an accountant to look at your books and make sure you can afford the services and the business is ready for new clients. So this is an interesting conversation that I had with Robert. He has in the past had clients that he has driven a lot of traffic to through his digital marketing and website design services, and they weren't ready. They all of a sudden got inundated with all of these requests to do work, and their staff and their infrastructure wasn't ready for the influx of business. So a good marketing, a digital marketing and consulting firm will help you figure out whether you're ready to have all this business driven your way. And I thought that was a really interesting piece of insight because I hadn't had to look at it like that before. So they look at overhead, fee schedules, accountancy, admin, benefits, all that kind of stuff, and how much it's going to cost, the capital costs, which are equipment, hardware, software, that kind of thing. And then recommend mentors and create financial projections.
So again, part of this for me is the ethical responsibility. I have a referral partner who has sent me 6 referrals in the last month and a half. I have only offered to send a proposal to one of them. And the reason is because I don't believe the other 5 are either A, should spend money with me, or are prepared to spend money. And I would rather turn someone away and build the relationship and have them send someone to me as a person who acts in integrity than take their money, build them something that'll really serve them, but they're not ready for it. And it's not just the influx of business. Sometimes business model doesn't work. We had a referral partner who had an idea about diapers, and her business model on her own it worked okay. And we started doing market feasibility to actually look at, does this business, can it grow? Can it sustain itself? If you employ people, can you afford them? Can you afford insurance, benefits? And what really it came down to was she had not thought about the ability for that business to scale. She had based it on free labor of hers and not on actual employment. And so when we looked at the business model, The diapers were a complete net neutral or a loss. She would either break even or lose money every month. And I said, great. Now you need to think about what are given add-ons such as baby wipes, organic baby wash, things that would be a natural fit that a buyer might purchase at the same time, and wrap that into a package rather than just diapers. And so when we did that, those were her profit items, and it became a profitable business that could scale because we thought about the business in a bigger way. Could I have built her a product with an online marketplace, et cetera? Absolutely. But it would have been the wrong thing to do, in my opinion. It would have been unethical to sell her a product that she could not scale her business with. And I felt like that was sort of a responsibility that I had to her, to look out for her and say, hey, I'm not your business consultant. That's not my job. You're not paying me for that. And I'm not here to build a business plan with you. But on the face of it, you don't have the research down to understand if this business can grow and sustain itself. And right now, I can see that your model doesn't work. So you need to go and meet with somebody at, these are just a few organizations that we've had some partnerships with over time, but organizations like MISO, Mercy Corps, Livelihood Northwest, they're well equipped, they're pro bono, they often have language translation services in-house, and they often are staffed by people that have been in different communities and built different businesses and seen a lot of businesses come and go, so they're smart. And then somebody should come to me after they've gone through those processes to build out a business plan and make sure that it's got feasibility in its market.
And I have to say that I know several digital marketing firms, and they don't do any of this for their clients. What they do is give you a couple of different maybe services that they plug in and create a plan that way without really any understanding of what your brand is.
Louisa, I think we've lost you. It might have muted. There we
Mhm.
go. You're back.
Okay. So Robert, I'm going to have you take over. This is your slide.
Sure.
I made
So,
it. But you're
so
this is like the crux of what you do.
So generally when I look at a market space and I help identify where a client should move and take action, we want to look at the market space and see what people are searching for with Google. I touched on that before. And really pinging, what are people playing on Google Ads? Is that a good strategy or not? Google will tell you it's always a good strategy. They'll offer to help, basically to take your money. Yelp will do the same thing, Angie's List, Home Advisor, etc. And I'm not saying those aren't great solutions. I'm saying that, again, based on data, I want to know what you're paying for before you agree to it. If that's a better solution than working with me, by all means, you should do it because that's a better solution than working with me. But generally, I want to understand if a website has, say, low competition for organic ranking, meaning when someone searches for janitorial services Portland, it's an easy keyword to get onto page one or get in the maps when people search, then I would suggest people pursue, again, paying a professional to build out a website that does some of the heavy lifting for you to maybe obtain some of that organic business. That way you're not paying per click or per job. So there are some spaces in some markets where, particularly like construction right now, there's so much work that there are certain industries and niches that it makes sense to go after organically first, rather than spend thousands of dollars on ads. And so we evaluate a market space. We can look at the average cost per job and cost per click on Google ads and Facebook ads, et cetera.
So I just want you to really understand what you're looking at here. This janitorial services is a keyword. Office cleaning services is a keyword. Janitorial is a keyword. And for those keywords, for example, janitorial services, their average search is $290 per month. They're paying, cost per click is $25. And the price per click is 26. Can you explain that a little bit better, Robert, just to make sure everybody understands how this works?
Yeah, so looking at a market space, if someone wants to talk about this in more detail, they're welcome to schedule time with me. I will always give people time, even if we're not ideal match as far as client vendor. I'm happy to take time to kind of explain to people a little bit more in depth. I may have limited time on my battery life on my laptop. So just a heads up on that. I apologize.
Okay. So join a networking organization like BNI. I don't know if you know what BNI is or not. It's an international networking organization. I actually belong to a chapter, and the kind of the concrete services like cleaning, carpet cleaning, and office and residential cleaning do really well. There's realtors there. There's people with financial services. They all become a really good network for each other. And the cleaning person, she's not a residential cleaner. Her husband runs a steam carpet cleaning company, and they're killing it through BNI. So, and there's other places to also look, which is registering with vendor portals like NetVendor, Port of Portland, and Port of Vancouver. And Robert touched on this a little bit earlier about how he registered with large construction companies that were across the country, so that were countrywide. And those kinds of portals are great places to look for jobs.
And I'm confident between Gustavo and Emma and others I've seen on here, I'm confident that they can also help plug you in with some of the other networking groups. This is just one example, but particularly getting minority certification if it's applicable, and building those relationships. There's also organizations like Oregon Association of Minority Entrepreneurs, OAMI. Many of you may already know about them. And there's also, in this case, I would suggest also Portland Business Development Group, PBDG. I'm on the advisory board there. That's another great space to showcase services, particularly janitorial, because both of those spaces they're always looking for. So if I was talking to Acme, I would say you need to go join both of these groups and start making relationships with vendors, and then register with Port of Portland, get your minority certification.
And those are also strategic partnerships. So Acme really needs to think about that. So find a digital marketer that specializes in your area that has proven success. Ask for data, past clients, and experiences.
So I want to touch on this really briefly. I think one of the things that I find in my industry, we're in our 7th year in business. And there are a lot of people that have really great intentions, but they either try and be everything, or they've taken an online course for $50 and they think they understand how to run ads, or fill in the blank. Or they use Squarespace or Shopify and they build you out a simple website. I say to people, ask good questions, find out how many clients they've worked with, not because that's an indicator, but part of what has made us really successful is that we have owned a bunch of businesses, we have run businesses, we have friends and clients who've run a lot of businesses. And if someone has not had the experience of understanding how markets change over time, how coronavirus affects things, it was an unpredicted thing, but there were predictable things within the market space that we could have seen in the data, or we could have assumed in the data. And helping people to pivot early on would have been really vital. In this business, I would have had really specific conversations about pivoting, and I would have said, realtors are still your best bet. Your offices are going to stop paying their contracts more than likely because they're not staffed right now. And your home cleaning may be really a struggle, but those realtor relationships, homes didn't stop selling. We all know that. And construction didn't stop. And so those sort of vendor relationships and pivoting, a good marketer thinks about markets and researches markets. They read a lot. They understand how things are evolving and changing within a specific market, nationally and globally. And so I think it's a lot broader of a conversation. And most of the people in our field generally don't understand data at all and don't keep up, frankly, with reading enough to understand how things are evolving and changing.
So your brand strategist will know where to look, and a great digital marketer will also have a couple in their Rolodex. Most digital marketers are not brand strategists and vice versa. Both are specialists in their fields of work. Take the time to plan out your business and invest in experts who will help you thrive. The right people will want to see you succeed.
And I would say also, if somebody can't commit to where they see a plan for you with them, I tell people, if you can stay with me as long as you want, but we have clients that have been with us since our first month in business. And part of that has been, we look out for their business. We give them guidance. We connect professionals when it's not our space. and we really want to see them grow and thrive. And a long-term partnership is far more interesting and valuable to me than getting someone's money for 90 days, or again, a website that they don't need or is too robust or won't perform the way they want. It is not of any interest to me because I want the relationships. And what's proved valuable for me is building trust and long-term partnerships and referral business. That's what has grown my business and sustained us during COVID.
So thank you. The presentation is over and we have some time now for questions. We have about 15 minutes. So I'm going to stop screen sharing, and you can, if you want to quickly write down Robert's email, you can. It's robert@connectingyourcustomers.com. And I'm also Luisa at acidbranding.com.
And
I
feel
will
free, for folks who don't feel comfortable or language may be a challenge. Again, my chief of operations is a fluent Spanish and French speaker. She's wonderful. She's smarter than me. And we collaborate on many things together. So if there's questions you'd rather have one-on-one or talk specifics, we're happy to help. You're welcome to reach out. We clearly are not a pressure thing, and we will tell people often they're not a great fit, but we'll hopefully send them in a better place or put them in a place where they have a little more information than when they came to us.
Thank you, Luisa. Thank you, Robert. I will to stop to recording right now. Thank you.